everyone, it's Dre2584, and in this video, I'm going to talk about something I used to use all the time not long ago. I have always been aware of how everyone has good days and bad days, so I thought it would be a good idea to make a scale used for classifying the quality of all my days and looking back at what my best and my worst days were from every year in my life. Over time, the scale I was using kept increasing in size. I progressively added more ratings to the scale and started making projects based on the quality of my days in the past. It turned out to be one of my greatest interests. Eventually, I came to realize that the system I was using for my days and the projects I was creating involving my days have caused me to run into several problems. My mind began developing an awareness of these problems as I was becoming more self-aware. As a result, I decided that I should change my mindset involving the system that I created. On December 9th, 2019, I developed the idea to make a 5-point scale for rating all my days in November 2019 and to rank all my days of the month from best to worst. I believe what influenced me to do this was how in 2019, I really enjoyed watching people review episodes of SpongeBob and giving ratings to the episodes, and the YouTuber Pie Guy Rules influenced me the most. That evening or the next evening, I made a chart on the Notes app of my iPad that ranked all my days in November 2019 from best to worst, and I ended up using a 6-point scale with the color code for each rating. After I did that, I thought about doing a YouTube video where I talk about all my days from worst to best of that month, but I eventually scrapped it. But I decided to do the same chart on my notes for December 2019 when that month ended, although the chart is incomplete. Around the same time, I tried to think about what my top 10 best and worst days of 2019 were, since I can memorize dates from the past. In 2020, I was using the 6-point rating system in my head throughout the year. In October 2020, I took the information about the days that I remembered, and I made a chart of my best and worst days of 2019 and 2020 and the notes on my phone. I also imagined in my head what it would be like to do other things to contribute to this idea. In 2021, I began to message a friend from the internet on a website known as the Top Tens. I noticed that he can remember dates from his past like me, and he made 2 different lists that he publicly posted on that website. One list had the top 10 best, and the other one had the top 10 worst days of his life. Once I saw what he did in April of that year, I decided to post a list of my best days of 2020 and a list of my worst days of 2020 with a description of why the days were good or bad, and then I showed him. As the year progressed, I was going further and further back with my favorite and least favorite days lists, and I ended up getting as far back as 2010 the following year, although I had to guess most of the dates on that list. Over time, I also made other types of projects in my notes and on YouTube videos involving my best and worst days, including 3 top 10 lists on both the best and worst side that I uploaded to YouTube, which were the years 2018, 2019, and 2022. My online friend decided to do the same lists on the top 10s that I was doing throughout 2021. My favorite day of every year was usually a vacation day and was in the month of August most of the time. As for my worst days, the theme changed throughout the years. I had to guess the dates from 2011 and before, and I only know of the stories at all from 2009 and before because I heard someone mention those stories to me. But I still found a bad day from every year in my life. My worst day of 2005 to 2007 had to do with me getting hurt or being in pain. My worst days of the years from 2008 to 2017 were because of my behavioral issues, with all of them taking place in school aside from the days from 2008 and 2015. As for my worst days from the years 2018 to 2022, all of them were the worst because I was very upset about something that someone said to me or about a thought I had while I was at home. Later in 2021, I convinced another friend online to make the same contributions as I was, and he did so. In 2021, I also expanded the rating scale multiple times. In around May 2021, I extended it to a 10-point color-coded scale. One day, I used my planner for the year to shade in some of the days on the calendar with whatever color described the quality of my day. For my days that were good and went on the 6 to 10 range, I combined the amount of enjoyment I experienced with how long the enjoyment lasted to find out my rating. On the contrary, when my day was not good, I'd see where on the scale for the 1 to 5 range my day fell into by combining the degree of how much something made me upset, angry, or anxious with how long the problem lasted. In July, I expanded the scale to a 20-point scale and took out the color coding altogether, and I showed my online friend. After I showed him the rating scale, we started editing the ratings to the end of our descriptions of our best and worst days list on the top 10s. Eventually, I already rated enough days where I could give ratings to my days by comparing them to others rather than using my original criteria. In November 2021, I doubled the rating scale again. This time, I added ratings with numbers ending in 0.5. In between each former one, and I came up with a new adjective for each new rating. I also started reflecting on my best and worst days from every month of the year, and putting them on a remix round this time, with a brief description and a rating for the best and worst day of each month. I eventually did this on a YouTube video in February 2022, with all the months of every year from 2013 to 2021. In January 2022, my 2 internet friends and I started giving ratings using the adjectives that the number corresponds with for every day of the month whenever a month would end by sharing it in a message. Gradually, I realized that the system I used for rating days caused some difficulties for me. When I looked back at my bad days, gave ratings for them, and plotted them on a worst days list, I happened to start looking for new bad days to have. As a result, I likely became more easily affected and sensitized to minor nuisances that bothered me, as well as dwelling on them to make the past or present day I am reviewing much worse than it needed to be. When my paternal grandmother could see I was being like that, she told me that there are 86,400 seconds in a day, so therefore, letting something little ruin your day is like having someone stealing $10 out of your bank account when you have $86,400 total, and throwing away the rest of the money. I thought that was a good moral. When I made my least favorite days list, I gave excessive depth to my descriptions. I would describe every minor detail about my bad days, which made me seem overly negative and sharing personal things. I also came to realize that my long descriptions were probably exhausting for many people to read. When users of the top 10s viewed my worst days list, some of them started to mock me for it, and I even got a few comments that were filled with hatred. In September 2022, I got a hateful comment with profanity on 2 different days on the top 10s because of my worst days list. The comments hurt my feelings and caused me to be ashamed of myself for making those lists and projects. On the former day, the hateful comment I got was on a post where I took 15 common negative qualities of my bad days and rate each quality from 1 to 10 how present each one was for each day, and then adding up the score for every bad day of the year to see what my worst days were objectively. I got this idea after I started messaging one of the friends a few months before that about which single day had the ultimate example of each one from every year in my life. And I called them Rotten Awards. I already felt like the post I made was a silly idea, and that angry comment really made me feel that way, and I even deleted the post afterwards. I recently started making modifications to my worst days list by making my descriptions much shorter and less personal, because I noticed the lists would have at least been better if I had done those lists that way from the beginning, and I think I made the right decision. When it comes to rating and ranking my best days, I noticed to have a few other issues. I realized that in 2022, how when I was having an enjoyable day, my mind was continually thinking about how I was going to rate the day when it was over. I may not have enjoyed myself to the full extent that I would have without the rating system I used. When I realized that, I tried to wait until the end to think about my rating for those days. I also noticed that I was aiming too hard for perfection when I was having a very good day. As a result, I worried that something unpleasant would happen on the same day I had fun doing something, and my rating of the day would get lowered. I learned a lesson about how I should not let everything ruin my day on May 11th, 2023, when I had an excellent day since I went to the yearly Starlight Formal at my school that night, but I had a rough moment that night afterward. That also caused me to be aware of how it took little effort for something to bring my day to the bottom of the scale, but considerably more effort to bring a day to the top. So nowadays, I'm trying to look at things more positively. I decided to keep my descriptions on my favorite days list the same, but I changed the ratings to a letter grade and took out the adjective to describe the day on both of my best and worst days lists, since I was aware of the problems I had when I was doing it the original way. Here's what my original ratings convert to on the newer letter grading system. Overall, I think it's good to share happy memories, but like I was saying, the way I was doing it became unhealthy for me. I also came up with a reversal of the rotten award system I just talked about, which I called the golden award system. For that one, I took 15 common qualities of good days that I have and looked into what day from each year in my life had the ultimate example of each good quality. I still think this would actually be a good thing to do. It shows appreciation and an optimistic view on my fond memories in a healthier manner. Making projects related to my best and worst days of every year was something I began doing because it combined my interest in talking about stories in the past with giving rankings and ratings to things to describe the quality. Having a friend I discovered who liked talking about his past days in the same manner was a major part of why I became passionate about taking part in it. When I began to use the rating system and creating charts involving the quality of my days from the past, I did not know as much about myself as I do today. So I did not realize that it was unhealthy for me to go as far as I have gone with the systematic scale I was using. Now that I'm starting to move past my obsession with using all the days that I had with this tool, the difficulties it has been causing are progressively coming to an end. I may still look at my ratings for new days, sometimes by the force of my habit, for some time longer, but I will still try to make progress. I, like everyone, should appreciate every good moment for how it is and try not to stay focused on small nuisances or any unhappy memories that happened in the past. There you go. I hope you enjoyed this video. One last thing I would like to say is that I mentioned on my 18th birthday video that I was going to do a special overview video. I thought I'd have it uploaded by now, but I decided to take a break from writing the script. I'm not exactly sure when I'm going to go back to working on it though. But again, I hope you all liked this video and learned from it. Goodbye everyone.